In this video, we are going to look at how to work with direct call rules in Adobe Launch. For people who are familiar with Google Tag Manager, this is something similar to custom events in Google Tag Manager. If not entirely same, but similar, right? So what are we going to cover in this video? We are going to cover some use cases. Where will you use the direct call rules? So just understand the situations first, that how and where will we use the direct call rule, and then we will see how to set up the direct call rule. How should we pass the instructions to the developers so that they can pass the functions to set up the direct call rule. The involvement of the developers would be required in most cases to set up the direct call rule. And finally, we will see how we can pass information in the form of key object pairs with direct call rules. So in direct call rules, we can pass this information as I just said in the form of key object key value pairs, right? So direct call rules were there in Dynamic Tag Manager as well, which was the predecessor to Adobe Launch. So that is the variant of Tag Manager that Adobe had before Adobe Launch, and in that one we could not pass any additional data points in the form of key value pairs in the function of the direct call rule itself. But in Adobe Launch, that's an upgrade, and we can pass the data points in the form of key value pairs in the direct call rule function itself. All right, so let's start then. Before moving further, I would like to invite you to join our group on Facebook. It's called the Digital Optimization League by DataVinci. It's a group dedicated to digital analytics. We cover various topics on tag management, conversion rate optimization, data visualization, and other related stuff. So looking forward to meet you over here. Now let's discuss some use cases. All right. Now, if you go to Adobe Launch and you have to create a rule, so you might be familiar that you will go to rules and then click on add rules. Okay, now this is the part where you set the trigger conditions for the rules. So whatever conditions for firing of any action that you have to define in a rule, you will set it over here. So if you go to events and then you go to event type, so there are certain predefined events which have been provided in Adobe Launch, just like Google Tag Manager or DTM or any other tag manager. Now these events Adobe Launch would be able to detect if they are properly occurring on the web page. But other than that, there would be certain events when Adobe Launch will not be able to detect that a key interaction has taken place on the web page, or certain event has happened on the web page, according to which we need to track something, according to which we need to send data to our analytics or marketing platforms. Right? So some of the examples can be, let's say that you are working on a single page application, right? Now, in case of single page application, what happens? That once the application loads, and after that on the web page, if the user would interact with that application, then the page load would not happen. So the content of the page would change, but if you try to track the various steps of that interaction, so let's say it's a single page application which has 5 forms, and you want to create a stepwise conversion rate. You want to set Adobe Analytics such that Adobe Analytics fires on each step of the single page application. Then you would not be able to do that with a simple page load or DOM ready or whatever, because the page has already loaded. Now whatever is happening is because of that application, right? So in such a case, direct call rule can be used. Right, let's take another example. Take an example of a form submission. All right, so you have a form submission where after the form submission happens, the user is not taken to any confirmation or a thank you page, right? The user stays on the same page. At times it can happen that the form just vanishes and there is no element or no event to find out that what happened. The page has already loaded. A click trigger cannot be used over here, because click would tell you click on it CTA, but click would not essentially tell you that the form was also submitted. I agree that you can create some kind of custom codes, you can work with JavaScript and track this, but it is not always possible for everyone to keep the codes and work with Tag Manager. And also there are certain regulations that you need to follow even when you are using the tag management in manager in certain companies. You cannot just put your own code using Tag Manager. You have to take proper IT approvals, right? In such cases also, direct call rule can be very effective. Final example is, let's say you have to track some kind of video on the website. right? Now videos are usually, there are different kinds of video players that you put on the website, on the web page. So it is not always going to be trackable, right? And there are certain events. Let's say you want to fire a 25% milestone or a 50% milestone. It is not always going to be possible to track that with the tag manager. There are certain triggers which are present for media, but these will not work with all kinds of media players. For certain media players, you will need the developer intervention, and in such cases also you will need to use a direct call rule. All right. So we covered 3 use cases. One is single page application, one is certain form submissions, and one is video or media event tracking. As a rule of thumb, in general, when you are not able to detect the interactions of certain events with the predefined rules, you can go for direct call rule. And also, if there are certain data points that you are not able to pick from the page during a certain interaction, then you can also use direct call rule. We'll look at that later in this video. All right. Now let's look at how to set up a direct call rule. Let's see how to feed this puppy. Rough. I'm on ralphlauren.com, and I know that Ralph Lauren uses the Adobe Analytics stack. Now, any site which has been implemented with Adobe Launch to debug the calls that are being made to the tag manager or through the tag manager, it's a very simple procedure. You just need to type a very simple thing in the browser console, and you would be able to just debug what's happening. So that simple thing over here is a function _satellite.setDebug true. Okay. Now if I refresh this page now, as you can see, these are all the Adobe Launch calls, right? Okay. So now coming to the direct call rule. So direct call rule is executed through a function. So the developers would need to call this function on the business logic that you provide to them, right? And this function that needs to be called for the direct call rule is _satellite.track. Okay. Now to execute this function and to map this particular direct call rule with the corresponding rule in Adobe Launch, you need to pass an identifier to this rule. Okay. This identifier, the value of this identifier is purely dependent on the business logic. So you can pass anything, any random string over here, as long as you can map that string back to Adobe Launch for a certain rule. So _satellite.track, and then comes the name of your identifier. So for example, if we want to set that fire _satellite.track or fire a direct call rule when someone clicks on, let's say, this pause button or play button. Okay. So what you need to instruct your developers that pass _satellite.track pause interacted. Okay. It can be anything. It can be simply pause. It can be pause _interacted. As long as it's unique and you can identify and you know what you are doing, you just need to request the developers to pass this. Now over here, if I do a satellite.track and pass this particular thing, it will give an error because this direct call rule has not yet been created in the library of Ralph Lauren, because we do not have the access to their Adobe Launch. We only have access to their site and the information that is publicly available. So if I execute this, you will see an error over here that pause _interacted does not match any direct call identifier. Okay. Had it been the case that you would have created a rule in your corresponding Adobe Launch property with this identifier, then the particular rule would have got executed and something would have happened. A hit to analytics or a hit to marketing would have been sent, right? So let's take this example only, that if you were to create a direct call rule with this particular string, then how would you do that? So now we are in the Adobe Launch interface, right? Now you simply need to click on add rule, and you need to go to events, and then you have to select the event type, and here you will choose direct call. Okay. And here the same identifier that you provide to your developers, the same identifier you need to pass over here. So in this case, in this example, the identifier that we had provided was pause interacted. Okay. Now what would happen, that whenever this particular function underscore satellite dot track, and the value or the parameter to that function will be passed as pause interacted, this particular rule will get triggered. You can add further conditions to this one. So conditions based on data element, or conditions based on any URL parameter or technology or whatever. So any kind of filtering that you want to do, you can further do over here by clicking on the conditions if that is required. And then finally here you can add the actions. So you can choose your action type, whatever extensions you have enabled. So as you might already know that this is dependent on the extensions that you have installed in your Adobe launch property. So here, like we have an extension for Adobe Analytics, you can install other extensions as well. But for the sake of simplicity, let's assume that the call that you want to send right now is for Adobe Analytics only. So you will choose your extension as Adobe Analytics. Action type, as you know that there are three things. It's either send beacon or set variables and clear variables. In general, the first thing that you would do with Adobe Analytics is set variables, right? And here you can set any of the variables. So I am randomly choosing, let's say evar6, and it's a video action, and we want to tell that the developers that wherever the video has been interacted with, the video action is pause interacted. Okay, and let's assume that you have created a generic event that would fire with all video interactions, right? So let's say that generic event is event 8. So imagine a report where you would have the dimension of evar6, right? And let's say the name of this evar6 report is video interaction, and then you would have the event as video interactions as well, and the video interaction name, or let's say evar6 is video interaction name, and event 8 over here is, sorry, evar6 is video interaction name, and event 8 over here is video interaction counts. Okay, so you can imagine a table where pause interacted would come as a row item, and event 8 would show the total number of times this particular pause was interacted with. So this can be pause interacted, and there can be 100 values or 200 values or 300 values. Further, to break it down, you would have some kind of additional values like the name of the video or the name of the page on which this particular event took place, etc, etc. Now in the coming part of this video, we will see how we can pass additional information, additional parameters in the direct call rule, such that when we want to enrich the data, so let's say we want to pass the additional details like the name of the videos, the name of the creator, the name of the page, etc. with the direct call rule. So how can we do that, right? But for now, let's consider this thing that if you want to create a direct call rule and you want to pass certain things in Adobe Analytics on the execution of the direct call rule, this is how you will do that. First, you will request your developers to pass underscore satellite dot track function with a certain identifier. Then you will create a direct call rule in Adobe Launch with the same identifier, and then you will map an action to this particular rule. And in this case, we are using Adobe Analytics. The action that we are setting is that when direct call rule gets executed, set the evar value evar6 as pause interacted and set event 8. Okay. Now, as you know that once we set the Adobe Analytics variable, that's not the only thing that would need to be done to execute the action. We also need to choose another thing, and over here the action that needs to be done over here is send beacon, and then we need to select that whether we want to do a page view call or a link call or an event call, right? In this case, as it's an interaction of a video, the example that we are considering over here is an interaction of a video, we will choose s.tl, which stands for track link, and we can pass the name of that particular event over here. So we can pass video interacted, and since it was pause, we can say pause. Okay, and then when we save this and then add this to our library and publish it, the corresponding rule, let's assume that we had the access of Ralph Lauren, the corresponding rule will trigger the action on the website, and the data would be sent to Adobe Analytics in the way we have set it over here. Okay, now let's see how we can add further more data points to a direct call rule, the various parameters that can be added to direct call rule, how to do that. Now let's see how to pass key value pairs to direct call rules. Oh my god, I feel like a scientist now. Okay, so to learn this one as well, again let's take the help of ralphlauren.com. Ralph Lauren. What a name. Anyway, so last time the direct call rule example that we had taken was this, right? Pause interacted. Now, if we want to pass any additional information with this pause interacted such that we can enrich the data and extract more insights of what this pause interacted actually meant. So additional data can be like, if we want to track the name of the video, if someone has interacted with it, then what was the name of the video? And if we want to, let's say, track the name of the campaign for this particular video, so those information data points can also be passed. So how do you do that? It's very simple. So this is the syntax of your direct call rule _satellite.track, and then in quotes you pass the name of the identifier, which in this case is pause interacted. Then here, after the name of the identifier, so just after your closing quote, just put a comma, open and close the curly braces, and within these curly braces you can pass the various key value pairs. All right, so let's say that you want to pass video name, so you will put the video name, the name of the variable, that should not be in quotes, but the value of video name, that should be in quotes. So let's say I'm not sure what could be the name of this particular video, so let's say that 3 athletes, or I think a more general name would be diversity. So many people, there's so many color over here. Oh, my spellings are so bad. Oh my god. Diversity video, right? Let's assume that this is a diversity video, but in real world, obviously, the business will tell you that what's the name of the video, so don't worry too much about it. Let's focus on the objective, that is learning how to pass the key value pairs along with the satellite.track. And then if you have to pass more values, then you put another comma over here, and let's say the next value that you want to pass over here is the video campaign. Okay, it can be anything else depending on what you want to pass. And then again put a colon, and in quotes you will put, let's say the campaign is Tokyo Olympics. Okay, so this is how you can pass additional information. So anytime pause or interacted direct call identifier will get passed, these additional data points can also be passed with it. And let's see how we can use this additional data points. If let's assume that we had the access to Ralph Lauren, then for the Adobe launch, then how would we do that? Okay, so back in Adobe launch, let's just revise how to create the direct call rule. So add rule, and then in the events you will select the event type as direct call rule. So here we select direct call, and here as identifier, in this example the name of the identifier was pause interacted. Sweet. Then in actions, for Adobe launch you will select the extension as Adobe Analytics, then the action type would be set variables, and then here what you can do, if you want to set the name of the video in an eBar or in a prop, then how would you do that? The syntax is very easy. You will just click, let's say assume that the name of the video is eBar 10, set as, now pay close attention, %event dot detail. This is always going to be same, %event dot detail. This is always going to be same. After that will simply be the name of your variable. So video, oh my god, video name, right? As simple as that. Don't need to do anything else. So what it would do, it will just pick the value from the key value pair that you have created such that the variable name was video name, and whatever you have passed, so in our case it can be diversity video. Similarly, let's say that you want to pass, I'm just giving a random example, actually you'll not pass the name of the campaign in a prop, but let's say here that you are passing it. So here again repeating it, event dot detail dot video underscore campaign. Okay, and then whatever event you want to pass, let's say event 20, event 23, that would get passed. So imagine the report over here that you can see EVAR10 report, which is your video name report, and you can break it down by event 23, which is just the pause interactions. Similarly, let's say that you want to do this for play interactions, and it can be event 24, but the name of the variables can be same, again EVAR10 and EVARprop15. So that would again help you to find out the total number of play interactions as well. Okay, now let's look further that if you had to do something in a custom JS and you had to call the name of the variable, then how would you do that? So it's actually very easy to put the values in the custom JS as well. So by custom JS, I simply mean that if you have to do any kind of custom coding such that there is a situation where we cannot do that with the EVARs and the prop fields that have been provided over here. One of the good examples can be if you want to set the products variable. Okay, so in the forms for Adobe Analytics extension, as such, there is no option to put in the product variables. You can put in a transaction ID, purchase ID, but that's more or less it. You cannot do anything about any other values that need to be passed with the s.products variable. So let's say that you want to pass in the s.products variable in the merchandising EVAR, let's say it's EVAR42, the name of the video that you are passing in the key value pair in your direct call rule. Okay, so the product syntax, as you know, is s.product, and then you need to pass the various things over here. First is the category, second is the product name. I think then there is price, there is quantity, and there are a few other things, and finally there is the merchandising EVAR that you can pass over here. Okay, so that is, let's say, EVAR42. So here what you can do is simply this plus, and you can just pass in event detail dot video name. And then if you want to pass another parts to this product variable, which, as you might know in the syntax, the components of one product are separated by semicolon, but if you're passing multiple products, then they need to be separated by comma. So you do a comma and then multiple times semicolons based on the value that you are passing over here. Okay, so this is not a video for explaining the products variable. This is a video for direct call rule. So the key takeaway for you is that if you want to pass the key value pair which you are passing in the direct call rule, so you can simply use event.detail the name of the variable that you are passing, and that can take care of it. A more simple example, a simplified example can be s.evar2 just simply event.detail.video name, where video name is a value that you are the name of the variable that you're passing in the key value pair. Okay, so I hope this is also clear. You can watch it 2-3 times to understand it. You can also practice in the console, the access to which you have, and just debug it and see the values that you are getting, and do not need to publish anything, just debug it in the preview mode and see what you're getting. But still, if you have any doubts, then you can just put that in the comment section below, and I'll try my best to address those.